What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Unofficial PlayStation Plus podcast, your monthly slice for all things PlayStation Plus. News, reviews, reactions, opinions, we've got them all every last Sunday of the month. I'm your host, Vincent Kenny, and joining me today on this episode is our very special guest, Mr. Hunter Grace.
You almost got it. It's Gerace.
Gerace.
Thanks for coming, man.
I was so close.
You were close.
But yes, so we are here to talk about all things PlayStation Plus for the month of February 2021. This is our second take because I'm super professional. But yeah, so before the things you were just saying, because I asked you what's the latest game thing you've watched and thing you've listened to, and you were talking about Bowser's Fury.
Yeah, so Bowser's Fury definitely caught me by surprise, honestly. I'm glad that it's somewhat of a short game because me personally, I prefer shorter games than like more lengthy stuff. So
with Concrete Genie, I looked at it because I think Control is like 20 hours, and then Destruction All Stars there is no end. I'm like, oh, Concrete Genie 8 hours, boom, I can do that.
Exactly, yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about Concrete Genie.
Yeah, there's certain games I'm sure if I had the free time, I would probably love Persona 5, but it's I just don't have 60 hours a day to commit to one game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, Persona 4 Golden was the one game I finished last year when we were all stuck in our little quarantine thing. But that game, I think I logged in at least 60 hours. So yeah.
That's the double-edged sword. Is I've started working recently, and it's cool to feel productive and you're being part of society and you're helping things, but it's man, I miss going to bed at 4 in the morning, waking up at 1, and just streaming for 5 hours straight. I'm glad I have money and I'm glad I have responsibilities, but I also yeah, man, I really did enjoy that time.
Yeah, you gotta pick your poison, is what I say.
Yes, but okay, and then real quick, just the last thing you saw and listened to, be it podcasts or music or whatever.
I do listen to podcasts all the time while I'm at work. Last podcast I listened to was actually no surprise to anyone who knows me. It's one of the Kind of Funny podcasts, Kind of Funny in Review. They were doing the Indiana Jones in review. I think that was the last episode I listened to.
See, again, that's one of those things that I used to watch their content daily, and then in the last 2 months that I've started working, I think I've watched one games daily. So it's yay, I'm happy that I'm working again, but it's man, that backlog's just getting bigger and bigger. But yes, so let's just go straight into the game discussions. So you got 3 games, for February. We got Destruction All Stars, Control, and Concrete Genie. I have not played Control, so I'm going to leave that to you if you have anything to say about it.
Yeah, so I haven't played the Ultimate Edition yet, so I can't say much about the DLC.
Yes.
I did play Control back when it came out, so I forget what year it was, honestly.
Yep, I looked
it's been a blur.
Well, the Ultimate Edition came out in August 27th of 2020, and the original was 2019.
Okay, so it was 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back when I played that, it was almost my game of the year. I think Death Stranding came out that same year, though, so that was kind of, up in the air for that. And, it's one of those weird, wacky sci-fi games.
See, again, yeah. No, you go.
Oh, it's just one of those kinds of games that I personally really enjoy. Not everyone's going to enjoy it. I had my brother play it recently, and he thought it was okay. So it's honestly, it's a mixed bag, but I'm glad it's getting more built reputation since it's on PlayStation Plus now. Everyone's been playing it.
Well, part of that is I this just might be my tinfoil hat going on, but I do find it interesting that there was a whole controversy about the upgrade that you have to basically buy the only way you could get the next gen version was to buy the Ultimate Edition. So you'd have to buy the game twice. and then after they announced that, I think it would went to Game Pass and it went with free for PS Plus. So and then
Yeah, but oh, go
uh,
ahead.
well, no, I was gonna say, and then I also think they dropped the price. Like it was originally going to be a full 40, and then they dropped the price down to 20. So I am just kind of curious, like how much the backlash really hurt them, or if this was kind of the plan all along.
See, the whole thing. Everyone thinks it was a plan. I really don't think it was. I think uh, they just got all the backlash and they decided, hey, let's put it on Game Pass and then let's give it to them on PlayStation Plus. I do think the Game Pass release, though, I don't think that was the Ultimate Edition. I believe that was just the vanilla version. So I don't even think that one was eligible for that next gen upgrade.
Mm-hmm. No, I believe. Well, I think it was a weird thing. Like it technically came out before the PS5, so it was one of those things you bought
It
it
came out
and
a while back because I don't even think it's on Game Pass anymore, is it?
I don't believe so. I think it was only for the first 2 months or whatever.
Okay.
But yes. Yeah. Well, you brought it up earlier, but I think Control is one of those games like I know if I sat down and played it, I would probably enjoy it, but it's just my time is so limited now. Like I definitely want those kind of quick hit, stuff like that. I'm gonna be able to hop in and just enjoy. And I think the other one is especially one of your favorites is Death Stranding. That is a game that like I played the first 3 hours and I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to enjoy this game properly because you have to sit down and play that for like 2 3 hour chunks minimum to like really get the most out of it. And like when I've only got like 45 minutes to game before I gotta run errands or go to work or whatever, it's like, do I want this really slow, methodical walking simulator, or I can just do Animal Crossing stuff and just like harvest all the bugs?
Yeah, Death Stranding is one of those games like I keep recommending to people because it's really cool sci-fi stuff. Like, because I'm a huge Kojima like fanboy and stuff, anyways. So of course I'm gonna like use all my time to play through Death Stranding. But like others say about that game, you have to get over that like they call it the Chapter 3 hump.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get past Chapter 3, then everything's just a breeze after that. But that's like the first like 10 hours out of 40 hours of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those
So
those
it
those are always the toughest. Like it's one thing to say, oh, just watch till episode 7 or even episode 20, but like 10 hours is a lot to ask for. Like I could have beat 2.5 concrete genies with that time.
exactly.
But yeah. So there was the other big one because we'll save concrete for last because that's the one we've both played. Um, was Destruction All Stars. It was made by Lucid Games and was first released on February 2nd, 2021. It has a Metacritic score of 63. So yeah, like I said, I do not have a PS5. I think that's the irony is like now that I can actually afford one, I don't have any time for one compared to a few months ago where I had like all this free time but I had no money to spend it on. It's like the catch 22 of life. Yes, but I saw you were posting earlier that you played this game. You checked it out for a bit. So what's your thought on this? Because the idea, like when it was first showed off, wasn't inherently bad. I'm like, okay, it's like this twisted metal Fortnite kind of mix thing where you get the different operators and the different vehicles and like the idea seems cool. The only thing for me is like it just seems like it has no focus. Like I'm not quite sure like what an average game would look like.
Yeah. So you ever played something like Overwatch? Like
I played the beta like years ago, but yeah, not.
okay. So you get the idea is that I don't know what they call this genre. Something like a mascot genre where they have a huge roster of characters and each one has different abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what Destruction All Stars is, except yeah, the main idea is that you score points by crashing into vehicles and you're trying not to get hit yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So once your car gets destroyed, your character gets ejected out of the vehicle and then your goal is to try to find another vehicle before one of the other players hits you with their vehicle.
That's where I get confused. It's like I just don't know where unless you have a time limit or whatever, like if is it just like purely the standard stuff like deathmatch, capture the flag, all that other stuff, or like do they do anything unique with the cars themselves?
They have 4 game modes. So the one that I'm describing to you is just like a whole like gain as much points as you can kind of thing. That's one of the main modes that they teach you. There's one that I actually really enjoy. I keep forgetting what it's called, something like a tornado thing,
Mm-hmm.
where the whole goal is that you gain like these gears and stuff, like they're points basically. You gain them by hitting other like vehicles and damaging them, but your points don't go into your team's points until you crash your car into the center of the arena.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if you gain enough points but you don't crash into the center and some other player just like knocks you out, then you lose all those points.
Um,
And does it go into like a bank kind of thing?
okay. Because that's my main. Like, I'm very curious, especially with Fall Guys, where that game, like, obviously, I don't think Destruction All Stars has had that big of a moment, but at least just from an outsider's perspective, Fall Guys, like, when it launched on Plus, it had a huge like month. Everyone was playing it, and then come Christmas, December, like, it's kind of quiet. Like, I know they've been doing incremental upgrades, and I think they're on like season 3 or whatever. Um, but that's always the biggest like question for me with ever these live service type games is like, do you think this has enough like to last like a few years, or is it just gonna be one of those things like Drawn to Death or something where it's gonna have its moment and it just kind of fade into the back?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like Drawn to Death, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Because so one of the modes that I played is like they kind of have like a story mode, like a single player thing, and it's just like a handful of challenges for each of the characters on the roster, but they don't release those challenges until like I think it's like 1 week after another, and those are the microtransactions you have to pay for. So those are like you do like $5 and you get a bunch of challenges for a certain character, and then once you do that, you get all the cosmetics and stuff. So I would think like once they run out of characters to do those for, they would just unless they add more characters. I mean, the player base is pretty much already slowing down now. I really don't think it's going to last that long.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was it? Actually, while we do that, yeah, we're gonna quickly go to an article from GamingBolt.com, and it's the Destruction All Stars devs saying being on PlayStation Plus is a massive win for us. So I fell. Okay, yes. So when Destruction All Stars launches imminently, it's going to be a free for every PS5 owner that has a PlayStation Plus subscription. But it was only when the game was delayed shortly before its original November 2020 launch that Sony made the decision. Prior to that, it was intended to be a full-priced release, and according to Sony, full price now means $70, which we'll come back to later. Given this game's live service multiplayer nature, it's been quiet. It's been quiet for a few who've praised the switch to its free period, and now developer Lucid Games are also thrilled with the results. Okay, and then so they said, I think why PlayStation Plus is a massive win for us. We wanted to be on PlayStation Plus when we launched, and that's something that the team was really behind. It took a bit of time, and it was a bit of a late hour to get those decisions through, but it's brilliant for us because it means we're now going to the widest possible audience. There's just millions of people with PlayStation Plus, so hopefully they're gonna try it and see if it's for them. One of our aims for this game has always been to make it pick up and play. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so it's kind of all over the place, but we'll start with the price, because apparently, as I pull up the other ones, yeah. So like they said, originally it was gonna be $70. I guess while the thing loads, do you think the delay was good for it, like getting it out of that crazy launch cycle, or do you think like it would have been better there going up against Ratchet and Sackboy and Demon Souls and all that?
I think for the delay, it did a little better than what it would have been at launch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still the argument of like, putting it on PlayStation Plus for many people to try versus charging upfront $70 that no one's probably going to buy anyways.
Yeah, because that other part also comes to us from IGN.com, and it's Destruction All Stars will now cost $20 after the PlayStation Plus promotion ends. It was originally listed for $70. So beginning April 6th, the day after it's free to PlayStation Plus subscribers, Destruction All Stars will be available for $20 USD, a $50 USD drop compared to its previously announced price point of $70. And okay, yeah, and then they're just talking about how if it's in your library, you have it for free. So I guess it's kind of a two-part thing. Is I'm definitely fine. I do think a lot of people do act a bit entitled and think like, they equate it to I don't like this game, so it should be cheap. I'm fine paying for Gone Home or something at $70. Like, if the experience is good, it's good. But I guess my question to you is, do you think this is like has enough to justify $70? And like even then, or like is the 20 probably a better price range where people are gonna sit?
Oh, 20 is definitely the better deal.
Because I think isn't Fall Guys 30 on Xbox and Switch, I believe.
I'm not sure, honestly. I thought Fall Guys was like 20 or 25 or something like that.
Well, I don't. What is it? It's not coming till the summer. So, game. Yeah, because originally, like when the when Sony was talking about increasing. Okay, it's on Steam right now for $29.99.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no. So when PlayStation originally said they were doing that $70, quote unquote increase, but like they're gonna make games cost $10 more. It sucks. I understand like why it's not fun. But I get it. But like I know a lot of people have just like. For some reason, they really just want to keep it like the price where it is now, and they don't feel that extra $10 is really going to do much on the long term. So I'm just kind of curious. Do you think games should be going up like now, or is it like just like they are trying to make more money on the back end? Because like the one argument I have seen from a lot of people is, even if they increase these prices, they're not going to get rid of loot boxes or battle passes or those things. Like they're gonna try and make money on both ends.
So I think the whole thing with the raising the price of next gen games or current gen now, it has to do mainly with production value and like budget and stuff.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, like I usually take like Metal Gear Solid 5 as an example because that, from what we've heard of reports, is like a multi-million-dollar game.
Yep.
And they charged up front like $60 for it.
No, they didn't even just charge 60. They charged the 60 plus the 30 for Ground Zeroes. So altogether, it would have been about 90.
Oh, sure, but Ground Zeroes was a completely separate project from Phantom Pain, I think. Because even Phantom Pain wasn't. They put all that money in, and they never even finished the damn game. So.
Well, yeah, because with Ground Zero, it was like the kind of. Like the demo or like the proof of concept of like, okay, an open world Metal Gear does work, but like I'm not opposed to raising the prices, but I will admit that I don't think an extra $10 will inherently fix all the issues that come with that stuff. Like that also has to do with like the way these teams are managed and coordinated and whatever, because like at the end of the day, like I know people like to say like even with Metal Gear, like throwing money at the problem is not gonna make that game come out faster. Like there's certain developers like Kojima or like Naughty Dog or Sucker Punch where it's like, nope, it's ready when it's ready. And if that's 5-6 years from now, cool. We're not making a profit for 5 to 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I'm saying with the $70 and the production thing, I think this is what's great about what Sony's doing right now. I'm sure we'll talk about this with Concrete Genie in a bit.
Yep.
But they actually look at their value and they or excuse me, they actually look at their budget of a certain project and they price the game accordingly. Like you look back at something like Medieval, and that game was priced at I believe it was like $40.
Yeah, no, they've done a medieval, and even the Ratchet like remake for the movie. I also believe was like $40.
Yeah, something like that. They like doing those budget titles. But as for Destruction All Stars, I'm honestly not sure why they charge $70 for it. Because when you play it, it feels like sure it's a next gen game. It's got like the haptic feedback and the triggers and stuff, the adaptive triggers. But it still feels like it could have been like a $60 game. Plus, you have to pay like the $5 for the challenges and stuff.
Exactly. Um, but yes, we're gonna move on to, I guess, the big one for both of us is that Concrete Genie. It was created by Pixelopus and was released on October 8th, 2019. So pretty much the same time as Control, which is interesting. I just noticed. And it has a Metacritic of 75. So yeah, we'll start spoiler free, even though this is a very short game, so it's hard to talk without spoilers. But just overall general thoughts. What do you think about this game?
So I did play this back in 2019. I'm glad more people are getting to play it because this is one of those games that went under people's radars.
Mm-hmm.
I personally enjoyed it. Again, it's 2019, and there were other games that I preferred more than this, such as Death Stranding and Kingdom Hearts 3. But Concrete Genie it's a really good game. I have to admit, especially from Pixel Opus, who only made one game before this. So.
Yeah, because what was it? They just had the State of Play recently, and I something like I think something people forget about these video package direct type deals. Like it's not just about hyping up the big games. It's also using that surrounding hype to put it on stuff like Shifu, or like the Puppeteer, or I'm sure there's better examples that aren't as far back as the PS3. I'm just like, what is it? Untitled Swan Game and all that. But yeah, it's like I've had my eye on this one for a while. So and it was one of those ones. Yeah, like you said, there was just so many other games that I missed it, and I do appreciate, and I got to go back and like, I really like the art style. Like, as vaguely non-spoiler as possible, my biggest issue with this game is just like it is too short. Like, I really enjoyed it, and like you can tell where the plot beats are going. But by the end, it's like, okay, cool. Like, oh wow, like realistically, you only get 4 levels because like one of the levels is a repeat of the first level, but it's like, ooh, dark and spooky. But yeah, so like, what did you like? What do you think about the just art style of this game, or whatever? Like, I love I love the idea of being able to make your own genie. The problem is like, it looks fine when it's 2D, and then the second it starts moving, it's a whole like Frankenstein thing.
Yeah, the whole genie creation thing. I mean, we've seen that stuff in games before, right? I mean, little stuff like Little Big Planet has done it. I mean, I even look back at something like the DS when they did like Drawn to Life and stuff. They had that kind of like it's cool to customize it, but when you see it in motion, it's like, ooh, that's doesn't look all that great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think that's like we've lost this last gen. We've lost like kind of that middle tier area, and looking at these visuals, it's always like this is really beautiful, but it's just the small little stuff. Like the character will snap to ledges and stuff whenever. So like if you're in midair, he will just like snap to that, or like I like the Coraline style when it's not moving. Otherwise, because like the characters' faces do look like you're almost painted on. Um, like I think the biggest thing for me is like, because the game is so short, um, you basically you really get to see the impact you had on the world, and it's cool to see the starting levels be all decrepit and like you literally bring life back to this place. You like light it up, like things are more friendly, like more festive. And it just like really sucks because like I said, I was really getting into it. It's like, oh, this is really fun. I'm enjoying it, and then it just kind of ends.
Yeah, especially on like when you get to the third act of the game, which we won't spoil right now because I know we're in the spoiler-free territory. You go back and you see like all the creations that you made, and then it just kind of ends.
Well, yeah, that was the worst part. Was I guess. Well, here, real quick, just because, so I can go full spoilers. Any last thoughts before we do hop into spoilers real quick?
I mean, it's just we talk about Sony and they like to publish these smaller titles that aren't like Naughty Dog titles or Santa Monica Studios titles. Uh, they like to do this stuff, and frankly, I enjoy this kind of stuff, especially with it being a budget title.
Oh no, exactly. I know they've done more with the PS4. Like I know they've done house marks. Honestly, I think you need these like quote unquote smaller titles to kind of offset the things. So like you're not going to be able to do a Last of Us every year, every like year and a half. And I do appreciate that Sony, they like I don't really know how to put it into words, but this is a very Sony game where like it's got a cool art style, it's a unique thing. Like it's over in a few hours, but like again, I have very bad memory, but I think the stuff like The Last Guy and What Remains of Edith Finch and all this other stuff, and like these really smaller titles that on themselves probably wouldn't do as good, but because they have that Sony backing, I do think they can find a wider audience, and I do think that's really cool because at the end of the day, like there's kind of a sliding scale for all. So like the more we have it where it's not just super mega conglomerates and then two dudes in a basement, like I definitely appreciate there still being that space for the kind of upper indies.
Yeah, and I mean you gotta have like those big publishers. You gotta mix up like your games. You know what I mean? Like I know Nintendo, they do it specifically. They're like a really good example. Well, they'll make like platformers and action adventure games, and then sometimes they'll release like these small eShop titles like Super UFO or like anything made by HAL Labs and stuff.
Pushmo and all that, and
yeah, Pushmo. That's a good example.
But all right, so we're going into spoilers, and I'm gonna insert a time code here. Skip to 3410. Yeah, so like I said, unfortunately, it's a very short game, so like it's hard to not talk spoilers without pretty much spoiling the whole game. But yeah, like I said, the part that I like is the plot points themselves were not that groundbreaking. It's like, oh, okay, cool. The kids had an abuse past, you've been through some stuff, like you all have your trauma, and then there was a scene where the darkness took over, and it's like Luna died, and literally as Luna was dying, I'm like, okay, she's gonna be back in like 20 minutes, and sure enough, she was. Like that's my biggest issue is I enjoy all the individual set pieces on their own. I just wish there was like more of it. Like if this was an extra 10 hours and you gave me like one or two more areas and you had a little bit more plot beats, like because just by the end you're like, all right, cool, we're gonna help this person, like it was kind of easy to segment the game because you're like, all right, well, I've done those three members of the gang, so clearly I have to have two levels of that because we haven't seen their backstory yet.
Yeah, and I think for a game like this where it's it takes place in a small town and it's mainly about getting from point A to point B. I don't know how much you can do with the plot that isn't already, tropey as it is. Like it's very predictable.
Yeah. Well, even with that, the main power that, like, at least in terms of the environment, is you have to spray, the stars to light up the space and get rid of the darkness. And I'm just kind of surprised that like that's the only one you need for moving forward, like that you need as a skill. That they throw a lot of stuff at you near the end where you can start attacking with the paintbrush, and then there's like a stun one, and then there's a dodge one and all this other stuff. And like I was like, oh cool, I love the idea with the stars and like all that. I just wish they had kind of developed that more into, different styles. Like I would have loved if you had to physically make a flame with the paintbrush or something like that, or like you needed to make kindling, and then one of the genies would be able to do that.
Yeah, I think all like the fire effects and all those different like paintbrushes and stuff. I think those were really for, well, they have trophies attached to them as well, but it's mainly for the entertainment. You're bonding with these genies and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because like I didn't realize that until halfway through, but I'm like, they give you a lot of options for your genies. Like I was just slapping the first, what was it, whatever was in the first row. So I'm like, boom, 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 and like it wasn't until the end where I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of just like hastily made these, and they look very sloppy.
Yeah, it's a lot of customization things that I know most gamers don't really like that stuff.
See,
They just want to play straight through the game and stuff.
I again, if I one of my favorite games used to be Little Big Planet, but like that came out when I was in high school, and I could spend a weekend just level like drawing and like testing levels and testing mechanics and doing this other stuff. Um, so I definitely love anything that lets you make your own content. But yeah, it is the kind of annoying of like of what was it like? Oh, you're gonna spend 20-30 minutes on this one genie, and then you only use them for two puzzles.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I think that is it. So, anything last wrap up for any of the 3+ games for this month?
For Concrete Genie, what did you think about that third act when it just completely changes game design? I mean, that's one of the things I didn't want to spoil for anyone, but it goes from like some weird platforming game to basically just like Jet Set Radio or Kingdom Hearts or
yeah,
some
like it's
stuff
like
like
it's
that.
like a light like because that was the thing I found interesting is like if you um in the first half of the game, if you just get caught by the bullies, all that happens is you lose your paintbrush and you just have to go pick it up and then go on with the missions. And then halfway through, they added a health bar. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right.
it's really weird. That's the one like part of the game that caught me off guard. But luckily it was like the last hour of the game.
Well, yeah, that was the worst part. Is like you get literally they're just handing out skills like quick and like, oh cool, here now you can skate fair fast and now you can shoot fire and now you can. It's like, oh cool, I would have loved to have 2-3 hours to play with each of these skills, but like you're just throwing at me so fast. Like none of them really feel that special. They kind of just feel like variations of it.
Yeah, it feels too rushed. I think the whole point of that was like to make this an action adventure game, but the environment around you is something that you created yourself.
Yes. Oh, and yeah, like I said, those final moments, when the game like pans over the environment, like I totally forgot. So like, it's cool that they'll show you like all your, excuse me, graffiti will stay for the entirety of the game. Like unless if you don't get rid of it, like all the crazy stuff you were testing or whatever, like that'll stay there till the end of the game. And I think that's really cool. That probably has to be pretty intensive. So I don't know how, maybe it's just like a memory thing. They literally could not make any more levels, but I do like the fact that like you feel like you have an impact on the world.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the technical design. I mean, it's probably why they made the map so small and stuff, so they can pull something like that off.
But yeah, so we are gonna transition from the game discussion to some of the hot news for the month. But before we do, let's take an ad break. As always, this is an independent show, and if you'd like to sponsor us or work with us in future business type decisions, play or pspluspod@gmail.com for all business inquiries, or just want to leave what you guys thought about the show or just some random thoughts or whatever. We'll be sure to look through it. But until then, we're going to give this free ad to, I'm trying to see, oh, there we go. Toy Story 2, specifically. arguably the Sonic 2 of the Toy Story franchise because they added too many characters and then they bloated out the cast. But still good, still great. Yes. But speaking of, I have not watched it since. Have you seen the new Sonic movie, sir?
I have. That was actually, like many others, that was the last movie I saw in a movie theater.
Yeah, honestly, same. Like, I enjoyed making those jokes. Back when I foolishly thought like COVID would only be like a week or two, but I'm like, oh, I love that. The best movie I saw this year was Sonic because I've literally seen nothing else, and like the Golden Globe goes to Sonic because nothing else came out.
Yeah, it was a whole mess that year, and like for me too, I only watched like 4 movies, maybe 5, that entire year. So
yeah, I'm definitely excited for the sequel. It's one of those things that the first one's an origin movie. Like, there's just by their nature, your hands are kind of tied. Like, there's only so many ways you can do an origin story. So I'm excited that they're like, all right, cool. We got Sonic's origin, we got Eggman's, all that other stuff. Now we can just do the weird stuff like Tails or Knuckles or Biggs the Cat.
yeah, I've never been a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog to begin with, but the movie was enjoyable, and from what we can spoil it now, can we?
Yeah, go for it.
Like the whole thing with Tails. I think the whole ending teaser with Sing Tails and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I can go for a sequel. This looks awesome.
But so yeah, we're going to move over to the news. We've got 9 heaping helping stories. I'm sure that was a sentence there. And our first one is gonna come to us from GamingBolt.com, and it's that PlayStation Plus will continue to be offering new titles at release. PlayStation Plus has been a service now since the PS3 days and has continued to evolve as the time has went on. It's now basically the PlayStation version of Xbox Live Gold, being required for online play and giving out some free games to subscribers. The actual list of games can be up and down, and as always, it's subjective to how good you find a selection. In the end, though, it does seem as if Sony is aiming to go a little newer. In a recent interview with GQ, PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan was asked about the future of the service and whether or not we'd see brand new games given away on the service as we had since the launch of the PS5. Specifically, this is referring to Bugsnax and Destruction All-Stars, which both launched day and date on Plus. And he said that the subscribers would have a positive reaction to the practice. We see these games as very interesting and innovative way to publish games and to make games available for our subscribers. It works for us as the publishers, and we know that the subscribers to PlayStation Plus love it. Unfortunately, Ryan did not give any review about what the next day and date game would be for PS Plus. We know that now. And we'll just have to wait to see more. So just starting off, I'm very unfortunately Xbox is kind of just gone radio silent right now. But I'm fascinated the fact that they've gone 2 totally different ways. That PlayStation is doing occasional games on PS Plus, but with Xbox they're much more committal to every first party Xbox game is going to be on Game Pass. So I'm curious, which one do you think? Not just in terms of players, but like as a developer, which one do you think is the better practice of the 2? Because like you said with Control, much like Netflix, those are just based off the contract, so it's kind of like a it'll go and then it'll leave and it'll come back. It's a lot more in flux compared to PS Plus, where if you have your subscription and you keep renewing the game, they're yours for perpetuity. There really is no time frame to enjoy those things.
Yeah, I still think Game Pass is the best deal in gaming, is what people say. This whole thing with releasing stuff day and date on PlayStation Plus, it's obviously a reaction to Game Pass. Mm-hmm. Albeit, some of these games aren't really all that great. I think Microsoft is doing the whole quality over quantity thing, whereas Sony is doing stuff like Oddworld and Bug Snacks and Destruction All Stars.
Well, yeah, I think that's the what I was talking to people earlier. They're like, "Oh, great, Sony's doing this," and I'm like, "The console's like 5 months old. Like, obviously, most for the first half of the year, it's gonna be like they really don't have anything to really pull from, unfortunately. And like the one go-to I always go to is I remember that Contrast was the first PS4 game simply because it was the first PS4 game. Like if that game had come out in the middle of the cycle or whatever, I don't think I would have remembered it. But so I guess like how long do you think they're gonna keep this thing going? Because like I said earlier, they announced that the April game is gonna be the new Oddworld game. Excuse me. And so like I'm kind of curious. Do you think this is just a right now situation of like we'll take what we can get? But like, do you see them still doing as many day and dates for 2-3 years from now?
Oh, I'm sure they're gonna still keep doing the day and date stuff. The thing I'm curious about is if they're gonna do anything for April or whatever is coming up after, because we're coming up to March, right?
Yes, yeah, because we have the March, and then let me check. I believe Oddworld is April, or it might be May.
Okay. I kept thinking Oddworld was in March for some reason, but I know in March they're not really doing any day and date stuff besides I think Maquette is a day and date game, but it's an Annapurna game, so I don't know how many people are going to play it.
Well, not even that. Like, because what was it? Well, they skipped over December because the December game was Worms Rumble, and I'm like, okay, technically that game did launch on PS5. Like, it is a brand new game, but like, yeah, like if you had and what was it? The January one was Maneater, which is like, okay, that's also a relatively new speaking. Like that game did launch on PS5 2 months ago, but I think the original Maneater's been out for like a few months at this point.
Yeah, I think the Maneater thing was just a next gen upgrade, but I think you're gonna see more day one releases like this on PlayStation Plus. I just don't think they're gonna be high caliber stuff like Destruction All Stars or Bug Snacks. Like I know because going into the state of play, we didn't know what the March games was gonna be, the March lineup, and everyone was theorizing that since Kenna, we didn't know that Kenna was gonna get pushed. We thought it was just gonna be still scheduled for March. They thought that was gonna be the PlayStation Plus game, and that's obviously didn't happen. But it's those games like that where they are, they're likely to be on PlayStation Plus day and date, but it's up in the air.
Yeah, because that's the main thing. Like I don't think like Sony has done. It's never been date and date, but they've done some interesting stuff. Like they did Destiny 2, I think 4 months after it launched, and like I know they've been fairly recent with their games. I just don't see them doing long term, keeping up this kind of pace because like I said, with Game Pass, you have to imagine those deals are negotiated and then renegotiated, and like it's in a constant flux. Compared to PlayStation Plus, where you basically have to give the developers like a lump sum of like, all right, these are the sales you would have made this month. Especially again, like a lot of people, they'll just add it to their game collection and then they'll play it like months or years later. So I imagine those Plus deals are probably a lot more stringent.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen as often. I mean, next month we're getting Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is, granted, it came out last year. That's still a big title. Plus, we're getting the what do you call it? The Stay at Home initiative. Yep. So everyone's getting Ratchet and Clank.
Yes. What? Oh, okay. Because I'm trying to look for Final Fantasy. Because I was gonna say, when's the Xbox release date? I'm looking at this now. Yeah, April 10th. For Xbox. Like there was a 1-year exclusivity for PlayStation. So it says that it will end being a time exclusive on April. So it's crazy that basically the PlayStation got the standard version and the plus version before Xbox has even gotten their one yet. So
this begs the question, though: do you think Sony paid for more exclusivity on that game?
I was gonna say, oh god, I'm consummate professional. Is it not in the PS Plus collection?
Final Fantasy VII Remake? No, it's not.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is everyone was assuming that it would start coming to Xbox and PC by the time April comes through.
Yep.
But then we got the announcement that the interlude game, or whatever that's called, that's coming to PlayStation. Like, there was no announcement for any other console. So do you think that Sony must have paid them out for something?
Yeah, I could see that. Like, that's, again, it's one of those things that, hey, we don't have, unfortunately, like with Ratchet not being till June, like, hey, we don't have a big tentpole title, so this would be cheaper than trying to rush something out and try and fill that gap. I could totally see them doing it.
Yeah.
But our next article comes to us from Game Rant, and it's the PlayStation's online service lead exits Sony Interactive Entertainment. With around 113 million active users each month, the PlayStation Network has undoubtedly been an important part of any gamer's life since its inception more than 14 years ago. Now, however, it appears that change may be on the horizon as one of Sony's top executives who is responsible for this feature is due to leave by the end of the fiscal year. I'm scrolling on the wrong key. I'm gonna butcher this name. Tsuyoshi Kadara is stepping down from his role at the start of April, but will be remaining at Sony. The former CEO has played a crucial part in the implement of PlayStation Online Network, which has such services as the PlayStation Store, PlayStation Plus, and the cloud streaming service PlayStation Now. Such key features have been the console's such key features for the console have been instrumental in driving Sony's revenues up the years, around 40 million paid subscribers for PlayStation Plus as of May last year. So he is a business veteran with 30 years of experience in the industry, and more than 70 of them as the lead of the Sony Network Entertainment. Okay, and then... Okay, this is all fluff. So yeah, so that itself is not too crazy. But the thing I am gonna feel to you is, I would have to go back and check my notes, but I believe, he was Jim Ryan's the guy like who did it before him. I'm not. Anyway, point is around the PS5. Sean Layden, that's who it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I know Sean Layden left like 2 years ago, and this on us on the back end, they've been doing a lot of business switching around. Like it's not on the news docket specifically, but they were talking about how they're not closing, but they're shuttering Sony studio or Japan studios.
Yeah, I think what the story behind that was they were cleaning people out, but they were merging everyone into Team Asobi.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the day before that news even dropped, I know there was one of the game designers from Japan Studio had announced that he was leaving. So that was, me starting to worry, like, hey, this is like the second person leaving this month, so something's definitely up with them.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's like, I guess that's kind of just the nebulous question is, I think Game Pass is definitely like, especially if you compare what they've done with Game Pass compared to Games with Gold. I think Game Pass is if I've always told people, if you're just someone who's like, hey, I just want to hop on and I want to play a game, like, Game Pass is for you. Like, it is a stupid good deal because you get all these free games. Some of them are big, some of them are indies. Compared to PS Plus, where it is a lot more curated. So it's one of those things like if you're not into the type of games Sony makes, like that third person over the shoulder, action game, there's not going to be a lot for you. So I'm just curious, kind of like they said, PlayStation Plus is 14 years old. And realistically, I don't know where the service really goes from now. Like, you could do like exclusive betas and stuff, but like I don't really see where Plus has to grow.
I mean, you'd imagine they would merge PlayStation Plus into PlayStation Now, right? I mean, that's the one thing that everyone's been clamoring for, and why Sony hasn't done that yet is beyond me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with I think standard Game Pass is like $10 a month, and then Game Pass Ultimate is like $15. But even still, like $15 a month is like for online and all that other stuff. Like that's not an awful. Like that's basically what most people are paying for Netflix or things of that other sort. So again, like if you are into a specific type of game, I don't see Game Pass being good in the long run. But if you just want something to play and you just want like new stuff to check out, I think Game Pass is good for that. And yeah, the problem with Sony is like they have so many stuff in the background. Like I forgot PlayStation Now was a thing. Like I know they've like done small updates. Like this was months ago, but I know they added like legit like PS3 controller support, and you didn't have to like, they've made it more user friendly, and they've like, but like I couldn't even tell you the last game they added to Now right now.
Yeah, PlayStation Now is not as good as Game Pass. No. And believe me, I have PlayStation Now, and even if the streaming quality is bad, the fact that like the backwards compatible titles you have to stream them, the library still isn't all that great either.
Yeah, because I had one friend. This was back on the PS3, so this was years ago. And we tried to play Hot Shots Golf, and it was one of those things like it was half a second off, but that half a second was screwing up all my shots because I'm like, why am I missing all these hits? And it's like, oh, because the lag. And like, I know it's gotten better, but I don't really see. Sony's kind of in the best place because they have they have Now, but realistically, like if they just keep with their tentpole titles, I still think they would be okay. That they don't have that fire under them like Xbox does, where they're trying to carve their own path and carve their own identity. And honestly, I think like the recent stuff Xbox has done with Game Pass has made me like far more interested in them as a company than I ever was before, because before it was pretty much like they're very similar boxes, and it was just like which developers and which franchises did you appreciate more. But with Game Pass, I do see Xbox kind of carving out its own unique niche, where Sony is going more or less for like the hardcore gamers, like the people who are only gonna buy 2-3 games a year, but they're big meaty experiences. And again, like I said, to Xbox, where they're just kind of a smorgasbord of whatever they can get. Like some months it's gonna be like, wow, we got this awesome game, and then other months like it's some indie title I've never heard of.
Yeah, and I mean you see this thrown around a lot now, especially with this current generation. Like it's good to have an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a Nintendo Switch.
Exactly.
Like each machine has their own perks. I mean, the Switch is basically what the PlayStation Vita is. It's a handheld that can play console games. The Xbox has the quantity of games that you can play.
Exactly.
And then PlayStation's all about, big budget, high quality, and brand name stuff.
But yeah, we're just gonna transition to the next news story, which is that which comes to us from Forbes, and it's that the PS5 is being sold at a loss, yet Sony is posting record profits. Okay, so part of the reason why I'm just going to start from the whole article. Professionalism. If you wonder why a company might decide to sell a valuable item at a loss, look no further than what's currently happening with Sony. They've admitted to taking a loss on the PS5, and yet they're posting a 10 billion record profit at the same time. The PS5 sold 4.5 million units by the end of December, which this is the same amount that the PS4 sold during its launch quarter. And that's with the PS5 being hard supply limited during that time, and now more indefinitely for the future. Part of the reason for their record profits is still due to PlayStation, however. While the PS5 is losing money as a hardware unit, Sony's gaming division is up 50% from last year, thanks to game sales, PlayStation Plus subscriptions, and digital downloads like DLCs and microtransaction, with PlayStation Plus adding 9 million subscribers from a year ago. Okay. A non-gaming factor is Sony's investment in anime, with Demon Slayer and its record-breaking movie paying off big time for them. Sony's new goal is to sell 14.8 million PS5s by the next fiscal year, and they say that they'll sell 7.6 million units by the end of this current one, which I believe is is it March or April?
Yeah, they usually end after 3 months, so by the end of March is the end of the fiscal year. Okay. Or fiscal quarter, excuse me.
They expect the availability of the PS5 to rise in the next fiscal year, but they will do their best to meet the high demand. Then it's just talking about comparing Series X. Okay, Sony is poised for another mammoth year and will see many PS5s as they can manage for the foreseeable future. This will lead into another big holiday season under a year from now, when more major titles are launched, like Horizon Forbidden West, squaring off against Halo's Infinite. But until then, both next-gen consoles and their resulting subscription service will continue to be a huge boon for both companies. I believe this is the follow-up story, but yeah, they've come out and they've said it's gonna be a while before you get next gen. As I totally closed that article, because they sold 4.5, and they plan to sell 7.6 million units by the end of March, so basically 3 more mil in 3 more million PlayStations. So first off, do you even think that's possible with the current situation, or because from what I've heard, people are still having trouble getting it?
Yeah, I've been seeing people having trouble getting it, and the 4 million initially that they have right now, honestly, it might be because of the bots and scalpers and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think they have mostly to do with it, because I don't know how much you can do without boosting manufacturing.
Yeah. You can go. I was gonna say while I pull that up. Yeah, they pretty much have said both PlayStation and Xbox have been hey, we have to cut they basically said much like the vaccine, you're not gonna widely get a PS5 until August, September at the earliest.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm. I understand they have investors and things of that sort, and it's one of the things that their hands are kind of tied to a certain degree. But I am just kind of I do wonder if in the long term it would have worked better, or if they're kind of using the artificial scarcity to kind of work in their favor and make the console seem more desirable.
Well, I don't think it's artificial scarcity. I think it's just scarcity beyond their control. But as you can see with the PlayStation 5, there's a lot more demand for the PlayStation 5 than the Xbox. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can all admit that, right?
Okay, so this is okay, so I typically just link because I have a Google notification, so I'll usually just copy the links. I'm like, all right, cool, this is an article, there's words in it. And literally, the only thing this article says, it's like a forum post, and it says Xbox Series X will be in short supply until at least June, and that's it.
Yeah, I've been saying too. I think supply is going to be pretty stiff until at least summertime.
Here I have another one from Ars Technica, and yeah, it says Sony says a semiconductor shortage makes the PS5 production difficult. So they shipped again 4.5 millions by the end of 2020. Where is it? It's difficult for us to increase production of the PS5 amid the shortage of semiconductors and other components, Sony CFO said during a briefing accompanying the results. We've not been able to fully meet the high-level demand from consumers, but we continue to do everything in our power to ship as many units as possible to consumers who are waiting for a PS5. A full 87% of PS7 or 87% of PS5 owners are subscribed to PlayStation Plus, Sony said, making those subscriptions, excuse me, key to the company's profits going forward. I'm just scrimming. Okay, so it's just more. It's gonna be hard to get. Microsoft has also not disclosed the unit sales for the Xbox Series X and S, but said in an earnings report last week that the Xbox hardware revenue increased 86% year over year for the holiday quarter. So I guess like I said, the main thing for me is, right now I believe the only one that has stayed to it is Ratchet's the only like full PS5 game.
Yeah, if you want to count like if you don't want to count Demon Souls as being a remake.
Well, no, okay, yeah, so it'd be Ratchet.
Yeah.
But Miles was like cross-gen. Horizon is cross-gen. I believe they've said God of War is cross-gen.
They haven't said that, but everyone's speculating it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's like my thing. It's just like, do you think they should have waited until, like, obviously, extending circumstances, like I don't think they were planning to launch in the middle of a pandemic. But you think, like, especially with what was it, Kena and Destruction All Stars, like we're not we're not even 6 months into these consoles, and there's already been like a few delays. So I'm curious if you think like it was a good thing to quote unquote launch early.
I mean, I would say it was a good idea on Microsoft's part until they pushed Halo out, and then at that point it was like there's really no point in launching next gen consoles, especially for Microsoft.
Or like I said, I'm well aware there's investors and things of that sort, and like their hands are tied into a certain degree. But yeah, I don't know. I think the PS5 will do good now, but honestly, I would not be surprised if it actually like tapers off. That once it becomes more readily available, people's interest is actually gonna diminish. Whoop! As I cause a scene. Yes, that I think people just want the PS5 because it's a hot thing right now. But when you can just walk into any Walmart or whatever, like I feel some of that fervor is gonna go away from it.
Yeah, especially with the high price point and the fact that again we were just talking about this. Most of these titles are going to be cross-gen, at least until God knows how long, because Jim Ryan pretty much lied from that from the beginning. So we don't know how long these are gonna last. So yeah, there's no real point in getting a PS5 now unless you're really into Ratchet and Clank or Demon Souls.
Yeah, because originally, my birthday was just last week, and originally my plan was like, oh cool, I'll get it in February. That's 2 months or whatever. Afterwards, it'll be a little bit easier, which I wasn't wrong. It's slightly easier. But then like as we got closer to launch, I was just like, I would just be buying it for the sake to buy it, and honestly, I much rather just wait for a good bundle, even if that means I'm not getting it till Christmas of 2021, 2022. Because yeah, I skipped the whole first year of the PS4, and I have zero regrets with that. So I'm totally fine waiting for a better deal, even if it means I'm not getting all these titles day and date. But like we said, also a lot of them are cross-gen.
Yeah, I think why people are hopping up onto the PS5, not only because it's like a hot item right now, but it's the gamers who want those quality of life improvements, like the loading times and like the better graphics and the higher frame rate and
Them cards, give me all them cards.
yeah, pretty much. And I mean, like, luckily I got my PlayStation 5 before Cyberpunk came out.
Mm.
So I was one of those people that got to enjoy Cyberpunk, unlike, the last gen consoles. So it's just those kinds of gamers who want the big beefy thing to play stuff right now.
Mm. But yeah, speaking of big beefy stuff to play right now, Days Gone is coming to PC this spring, and this comes to us from Kotaku.
That was a weird segue.
You know what? They can't all be bangers. Sometimes I slide in like all Tokyo Drift. The other time I just like bulldoze like a bull in a china shop.
Sure.
But yeah, so open world zombie slaughter sim. Zombie slaughter sim. Would you consider Days Gone a sim?
I'll be completely honest with you. I have not played Days Gone yet.
I mean, like I wouldn't consider it a simulate. Like
unless you want to consider like zombies, like a bunch of zombies running at you and seeing what it looks like simulated when you blow them up.
But I was gonna say, like, isn't that all games? Because like, isn't Halo technically like a future military simulator?
Sure, I get. Anything that has to do with physics is probably a simulator at this point.
But yeah, so Days Gone will be launching on PC. Reports British GQ. In a new interview with Sony Entertainment boss Jim Ryan, the news was later confirmed on Twitter by Sony Benz. Excuse me. A whole slate of them is on the way, or about coming to PC. With Days Gone this spring, the magazine writes, Sony began bringing its coveted PS4 to PC last July with Death Stranding, followed by Horizon Zero Dawn. The company announced in an investor call around the same time that it would be continuing to explore bringing first-party games to the platform, and Sony or Ben Studios' 2019 third-person action game will be the next one. So again, is there? Always think like, okay. Okay, and PlayStation rival Microsoft has been bringing its first-party lineup to PC marketplace, like Steam, announcing earlier this month that Horizon 4 would be joining Sea of Thieves and Gears of War 5 there in March. The trend seems to be part of a growing realization that consoles don't directly compete with the PC gaming audience, and that the only way to reach many of those players is by meeting them where they already are. Microsoft revealed last summer that Sea of Thieves sold an additional 1 million copies in the first couple of months after it came to Steam. So yeah, I guess the 2 point is, first off, do these PlayStation exclusives coming to PC excite you in any way?
They excite me in the fact that more people get to play these, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say anything about Days Gone because I haven't played it, but I haven't heard that many great things about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how excited PC players are for that game, but it's always great for more people to get to experience these games.
Well, that's what I find most interesting is like they said, they've started been doing that a lot recently. And even like a long time ago, I believe like No Man's Sky was PC and PS4, and then Street Fighter V was PS4 and PC. Like they've definitely done it before. But I'm curious that like as I look for 100%. Yes. The thing I find interesting is a lot of people are saying like, oh, this is great. Sony's listening. They're supporting gamers. They're giving people more choices, which is true. I'm all for. But these are all 4 or 5 years old titles. Like even Days Gone, like okay, it's only 2 years old, but it wasn't the biggest success. So I'm curious, like, do you think Sony eventually steps up to the plate and they go like, hey, Uncharted 5 is day and date, or is there always going to be that that kind of buffer period where like, oh, okay, the game's out of the limelight, it's not going to sell that much more copies, let's go put on PC for a small boost.
I mean, it would make sense to do it later, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're losing all that revenue on consoles, so you bring it over to PC, gain more of that revenue, and then you also tell the players like, hey, we got a sequel coming out for this one. It's going to be on PlayStation 5. You can only play it on there first. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's part of their strategy.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because even with, as we saw with the State of Play with here, like, I think that's where Plus shines the best is basically using it as, like, a weird marketing tool where it's like, hey, the new Call of Duty is coming out this month, so here's last year's Call of Duty. So, like, you won't ever be 100% active in, like, the daily discussions of these things, but, like, you're still caught up enough that you can know, like, if Demon Souls, like, I know a lot of people played Bloodborne, after doing that. And I think that's where it shined the most, is not just the game collection part, it's also the way it can work in tandem with the new games that as we'll discuss later, like, you're getting the first Ratchet game, or well, the remake of the first game on PS4 as a free game. That's 100% because Ratchet's coming out in June.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. As a YouTube meme dork person, I love when games get ported to PC because Kingdom Hearts got added recently, and people have just been going wild with it. I've seen so many mods.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see more of what they do and stuff with these games.
But yeah, so moving on from that, speaking about Ratchet, this one comes to us from the PlayStation blog, and it's just that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart arrives on PS5 June 11th. I'm seeing if there's any more. Dr. Nefarious. If you've never played a Ratchet and Clank game before, this is an excellent one to start with, as the adventure is standalone story, but longtime fans of the series will find deeper layers of connections to previous games. Pre-order, you get a skin. Okay, so wow, you can get the digital deluxe version for $79 USD or 99 Canadian, and you'll receive 5 additional armor sets, 20 rare titanium, and a sticker pack, as well as a digital art book and soundtrack. Or you could just buy a code and on the physical. Oh god, this is a lot of... Okay, that's really all it is. So I'm just curious, like, are you excited for Ratchet, and if so, why?
Oh, I am absolutely excited for Ratchet and Clank.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why, I mean, I grew up playing PlayStation 2, so I played, like, the Sly Coopers and the Ratchet and Clanks and stuff. So the Ratchet and Clank series has been pretty close to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't really get back into it until recently, because I think last year when Rift Apart got announced, I was like, oh, that's right, they did Into the Nexus. I should probably play that.
No.
Because I hear it's only like 5 hours long.
Yeah.
And I played it, and I was like, oh, man, this is really good. So right now, I'm playing on my Vita. I'm playing the original trilogy again, just to recap everything before this new one comes out.
I'm, like I said, yeah, Ratchet is like, when I think about Ratchet, like, retrospectively, it's like, I'm surprised this series hasn't burnt out more, because they've done a lot of games.
Yeah, they've done a lot. They did, like, lots of experimentation, and that's where it could have fell flat, but I think with the PS4 one that came out, I think they're trying to, revitalize the whole series.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely a formula, but they try and do something unique as much as they can, even if it's just like All for One that had the multiplayer, or Into the Nexus, which was like labeled as a budget title. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, there's 9 core ones, and then like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 6 if you count like the cell phone games. But yeah, like I'm surprised like Ratchet is not burnt out more. But again, like it's one of those things like it works. Like give me the animal gun, give me the the glob bomb or whatever. I will say I wasn't expecting it to be at the state of play, but it was still a bit disappointing that it wasn't, because the core idea of, hey, you can hop between realms and like you can pull tears and rifts and all this other stuff. The core idea sounds cool. It's just like I kind of want to know a lot more of the nitty gritty about like what's going on with Ratchet, who's this girl on backs, all this other stuff.
Yeah, and knowing Insomniac, I feel like all that story stuff is just going to be hidden until either like really close to launch, or they're just going to be hidden until you play it.
But while people are speculating about that, Sony is bringing back their Play at Home to distract players in March. And this one also comes to us from the PlayStationBlog.com. Play at Home returns. 4 months of offers for PlayStation games and entertainment begins March 1st. Hello again. The past 12 months haven't been as easy, and I think we're all hopeful that we may be starting to see some flickers of light at the end of this long COVID-19 tunnel, thanks to the tireless work of medical communities and people around the world. Okay, so in these historic times, we're bringing back Play at Home. Last April, we launched the Play at Home initiative, offering 2 incredible PlayStation games for free. Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, and Journey. There's an asterisk, and I'm like trying to. Okay, so the asterisk was just that the Nathan Drake collection was for PlayStation users in all regions except Germany and China. Those users received NAC 2 instead of Journey, which honestly probably might be the better freebie.
That's subjective.
I think for a freebie, like, it's one of those things. I want as many people to play NAC and get those numbers up. Nobody is going to spend $30, $40 on NAC at day one. But if you gave it to them for free, then more people are going to get in the door.
That's totally fair, especially because Journey is, it's an older game, and you could probably buy it for like $10 or something.
Exactly. What was it? And I'm pretty sure, I'd have to check my notes, but like I'm pretty sure, because this says April, and I'm pretty sure they gave the Uncharted, like the Nathan Drake collection, in January of that year. So like they might have been double dipping. Anyway, so we this year we wanted to go further, so we've designed a series of free games and entertainment offers for our PlayStation community to make the next few months a little bit more fun and enjoyable. So on March 1st, you're getting Ratchet and Clank PS4 for a limited time through the PlayStation Store from March 1st to April 1st. And like I didn't use this last year. And there was like some wording with the Oddworld stuff. So does this just add it to your library, or is it just like basically a free trial?
No, I think it just adds it to the library. I think what happens is the PlayStation Store sets the game to be available for free, and then you just purchase it. I think that's how it works. I personally didn't do it because I already owned the game back when they did this. So,
and then on March 25th, our friends over at Funimation are kicking off a very special offer: extended access for new subscribers to Funimation or Whackmin. Never even heard of that. So yeah, you basically get Ratchet and Clank and Funimation. Okay. Yeah. So what was it? Yeah, it was Uncharted and Journey. So I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts of like, do you expect the new one to be a big one, or like if we're going off of the marketing thing, like the most logical thing would be to make God of War free.
Yeah, I honestly, it might be a tough decision, but the reason why many people weren't too fond of Ratchet and Clank was, first of all, I think it was a PlayStation Plus title at some point,
Yes, yeah,
and
like a year
it's
later.
also part of the PlayStation Plus collection. So
That's what I was just googling. Is not I believe Horizon's also on there too, is it not?
no, I don't think Horizon's on PlayStation Now. It's not on the Plus collection,
Yeah,
which is
you are
kind of weird.
correct. God of War is in the Plus collection, but Horizon is not. So I feel like that would be a good middle one. Um,
Yeah, it could be either one of those two. I feel like because if you look at Uncharted and Journey, they're like drastically different games. You would think they would do like Ratchet and Clank is the more childish game, and then they would do a mature game
um,
like later on.
yeah, what was it? Yeah, because I played the PS4 one at launch. And it was great. It was really fun. They did this really stupid thing with the marketing where they released the game 3 weeks before the movie. So I played it and I beat it, but like I think I beat it literally the night before I went to see the movie. Um, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I was just like kind of sitting there all kind of somber and not laughing, not having a good time, and she's like, "Oh, did you not like enjoy the movie? Was it bad?" I'm like, "No, the movie was really good, but like 90% of the cutscenes were in
It's all the
game."
same.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I actually think the game might give better context, like because in the movie they just do a couple like wipe cuts and whatever, but like I think in the game they explain things a bit more, so it actually makes a little bit more sense. So I was like, oh, I enjoyed it, but it's the fact that literally I just beaten the game so close to seeing it was. I always thought that was kind of weird, personally.
I still feel like the only perk of seeing that movie was the post-credit scene, which I guess we can spoil. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's Doctor Nefarious becoming the robot Nefarious.
Well, yeah, because it's one of those like Eggman things where it's like the second you see the normal one, it's like, all right, how something's gonna happen to you. You're gonna fall some fate. Um, but honestly, like yeah, like Sony did not have to keep this going. And uh, I still think it's one of those like dope things. Like very selfish. I remember when Notre Dame burned down, that Ubisoft gave away Assassin's Creed Unity for like the day, and I totally swiped that up, and like I haven't played it. I just wanted it because it was free. But I still do think it's cool whenever you have these opportunities to help people in little ways, even if it's just like, hey, here's a free game to make things like less crap.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think Sony is good with doing that stuff. I think they started this last year, right? The stay at home initiative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it's good on their part. I appreciate it. I know other companies have been doing it though. I think I'm pretty sure Microsoft has done something like this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say anything about Nintendo because it's Nintendo. They don't like giving stuff out.
um. And then our next story is sometimes I'm very snarky when I write stuff, so the headline's just PSVR 2's coming, eventually. But this comes to us from the PlayStation blog, which while the thing loads, because we'll go into it after this, it's so weird to me that they like. I understand state of play. This is not what state of play is designed for, but it's so weird to me that they had basically the one day that was all these like press releases. There was like 6 or 7 random stories, and then like 2 days later they did the state of play. So I find it interesting they didn't try and like consolidate the two a bit.
Yeah, I mean, most of the announcements, honestly, were either just word of mouth through the blog post or through Jim Ryan, someone interviewing him.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand why they weren't in the state of play, but there were some things like Days Gone coming to PC that could have been the state of play,
Yep.
but I don't know how they would go about it because you would assume most people watching the state of play are PlayStation owners and not PC gamers.
Yeah, but like I don't think PlayStation has specifically done this, but like you look like, even though people gave them a lot of crap for it, you look at the Nintendo Direct where with Metroid and Breath of the Wild 2, Nintendo is a lot more of like, hey, we ain't got news. That's news. Like, don't ask us for another few months. So like, it's I feel it would have made the state of play better, but in terms of like a news cycle, again, these are all dope things on their own. But yeah, so we're gonna hop back over to the PlayStation blog, and this comes to us from Jim Ryan, I think it is. Yes. Since the launch of the PS VR, we've seen tremendous experiences that have propelled virtual reality gaming going forward, including highly acclaimed titles like Astro Bot Rescue Mission, Tetris Effect, Blood and Truth, Moss, Beat Saber, and Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. We've enhanced the experience for some PS VR titles when played on the PS4 Pro or PS5. Today, we're pleased to share that our next generation VR system will be coming to the PlayStation 5, enabling the ultimate entertainment experience for dramatic leaps in performance and interactability. I'm just scrolling. Okay, it will connect to the PS5 with a single core to simplify setup and improve ease of use while enabling a high fidelity visual experience. One of the innovations we're excited to talk about is our new VR controller, which will incorporate some of the key features found in the DualSense wireless controller, along with its focus on great ergonomics. That is just one of the examples of future-proofing technology that we've developed to match our vision for a whole new generation of VR and experiences. There's still a lot of development underway for our new VR system, so it won't launch in 2021. But we wanted to provide an update as early to our fans, as well as the development community has started to working on creating new worlds for you to explore in virtual reality. And yeah, okay. So that's pretty much it. I might be mistaken. Did you have a PSVR?
I do. Yeah, I still have mine.
Okay. Yes, because my ex had one. And I played it a bit with her. I think it's really all about in perspectives, because I know the Quest and the Oculus are technically better machines, but to like the devices themselves are like $300-400, and then you also need a $600-700 PC to properly make those games run. So I've always been like pro PSVR, because it's not the best and it's not the flashiest, but I think like as a budget, like quote unquote budget entry VR headset, I think it's like great for people who just want to try VR but aren't they're not gonna change their whole setup in their house or whatever for it.
Of course, yeah.
No, because I was gonna say, like, are you surprised that they're continue with the two, or did you think they were just gonna give it up cold turkey?
No, I'm not surprised at all, especially with Oculus and them reigning over all the VR content. But I'm glad they're doing it, because some of these PlayStation VR titles are really hard to come back to, especially after playing the Quest.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, because I know well, they've done okay, but I know going into VR, people like were really much like 3D or many of those other things. People were like, "This is the next big thing," and then it came out, and it was just like, "Oh, okay, like it has a market. It has a niche, but it is still far away from being a commercial juggernaut." Like it's one of those things. I don't have specific numbers on me, but you can't imagine most PSVR exclusive games, they're only selling 10 million at the most if they're lucky.
Yeah, that's all based on the attach rate and who owns the PlayStation VR. Because of course you're gonna buy a PlayStation VR, you're gonna get like Astrobot and Blood and Truth and all those games.
Mm-hmm.
But the other games, like there's one I just played recently called Pixel Ripped, But the all the third party stuff, like the third party VR games, those ones you're just better off buying on the Quest.
Because I know there's like some exclusivity deals, and like so some of them will like come months or weeks later. But like I think it's actually interesting that most of the PC games are playable on PS4, but there are those one or two ones like Blood and Truth and Iron Man VR and whatever that I believe are exclusive to PSVR.
Yeah, they are. I think they're Sony published.
Yeah, but again, and I don't know if any of the other. The biggest thing for me is it's cool to get confirmation, but I don't think it was like enough in flux that it was that much of an uncertainty. Like this is just one of those like, oh, okay, cool. You kind of confirmed what we were all like assuming.
Yeah, I think honestly, with all these announcements, especially with Nintendo and stuff too, these were all just announcements to put out before just for the investors.
Yeah,
because the fiscal quarter's coming up.
Exactly.
And you gotta let them know what's happening.
Yeah, because like. I'm very much the type, like, if you don't have anything to say, don't say it. And, like, it's just, like, I get, like, the biggest breakout is that it's one cable, and they're adding new controllers, air quotes.
Yes, that's definitely something that's been needed.
Yes, like, the PS3 ones, they worked well enough, but, like, yeah, I could definitely see, like, they were showing their age a bit. So I'm at least it seems like they're not they've said from day one, they're like, hey, we're treating this as a new device, like a separate pillar of our gaming thing. We're not viewing this as like, oh, this is just like a cash, like they've been very reserved, for lack of a better word, that they're trying to make VR a thing more than trying to just get in quickly while the market's hot.
Yeah, and like you said, it's just part of a pillar, right? I mean, I think even Shuhei Yoshida said like this is equivalent to just PlayStation 1. They're moving up, much like how the PSP was the first of its kind, and they moved up to the Vita and stuff.
Exactly, yeah, because like I said, I think it's still pricey right now, but I still like. It's one of those things. I love the experience I had with it, and I think it's something like it's hard to describe. You should really play it, like at least like go to they don't do it anymore, unfortunately, because of COVID. But I know like 2019, 2018, they would do the the PlayStation like trucks and whatever, where they would go to malls and concerts and things of that sort, and like allow the public to play it. And I think it's one of those things like it's just such a hard experience, because like unless you play it yourself, you really can't describe like it's really like I'm fascinated in the minute stuff, like how developers dealt with the whole moving issue, where like some did teleporting, and I think Doom just said screw it and they gave you full camera, and it made people really sick. And I know like there's been combinations of stuff. So I'm definitely looking forward to, you would hope, 2-3 years from now, when PSVR 1 is a bit cheaper and then more people can finally try it.
Yeah, and you would have to assume too that once the second revision comes out, or PlayStation VR 2, whatever you want to call it, it's only going to work on PlayStation 5. I mean, you would assume that, right?
Yeah, because I believe right now you need this specific dongle to play it on PS5, do you not?
Yeah, you use like because the camera that you need to use has some weird proprietary input on it. Mm-hmm. So they sent you an adapter that's basically just a USB cable.
Yeah, because I'm looking. Obviously, this is Canadian, so prices are kind of skewed.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But the Iron Man VR bundle with Iron Man VR, 2 wands, the headset, the camera, and PlayStation Worlds, which most bundles don't come with the camera or the wands. Either say all that, like that's a good setup. That's still $450. Like,
yikes! Yikes!
It is at that point where it's like, all right, I could buy the VR now and play it for maybe 2-3 weeks, and then have it kind of sit for a bit, or I could save that money and go to a PS5, which I know I'm going to use more in the long term.
Yeah, and I mean it's a tough decision to put out like a press release like this, especially if you wanna try keeping those PlayStation VR sales for the first units, because I mean we talk about this with Nintendo too. Like they're afraid to announce the Switch Pro because the original Switch is already like making bank. Like I don't know why you would announce it, because if you announce it, everyone's gonna be like, oh, well, we shouldn't buy this unit. We should just wait.
See, like the main thing for me, and I feel like such a Chicken Little that like the sky is gonna fall down. I'm not inherently against a Switch Pro. Like I remember when the PS4 came out, or PS4 Pro, I'm like, this is dumb, this is stupid. Why do we need this? And like as the time has gone on, it's like, okay, cool. Like that is not something I specifically would use. But I can see how there's a market for that. I can see how some people, they want that 4K 60 FPS stuff that like, they want it the best way possible. So that makes sense. My biggest worry with Nintendo is they have a very bad history of locking off their content. So I have that FOMO of like, because with the new 3DS, I think it was only like 10 or so exclusive titles, but I still have that FOMO of like, but I can't play them.
Yeah, I think the new 3DS only had like they had one that was exclusive, which was Xenoblade, but then there were some other games that didn't run that well
Yeah,
on the
like
base 3DS. So
yeah, there was some stuff like excuse me, what was it? Hyrule Warriors.
yeah,
That it was on you could play it on the original 3DS, but it was like it was basically unplayable.
yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm just doing real quick. What was it? There's Xenoblade, Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Fire Emblem Warriors, Wind Up Night 2, Runbow Pocket, Futuridium EP, a Block Form, Pixel Hunter, Lightspeed, Pinball Hall of Fame, Dragon Fang, Forma 8, the Super Nintendo Virtual Console, and then Minecraft. And those last two were like the ones that upset me to this day. That
Yeah, Minecraft is definitely a big one.
Even the Virtual Console, I trust Nintendo. So I'm not an engineer. I don't know how this works. It just seems very suspicious that the 3DS could not run Super Nintendo games.
So the thing is, and like I have a new 3DS, I've tested this out. It's weird because the only reason that they would lock it to the new 3DS is that have you ever played like the Game Boy games on the 3DS?
Well, that's what I'm gonna say because I would have to double check. I believe there's GBA games that are locked to the Ambassador program.
Yeah, I have those.
Yeah,
I was one of the ambassadors. Yeah.
Yeah, that they gave out. I think it was like Metroid Zero Mission or whatever, as like a thank you or whatever, like for the people who bought early. But then they never released those games like to the public. So like if you weren't an ambassador, you couldn't even buy those games if you wanted to.
Well, they re-released them. They were only on the Wii U though for some reason, which is even a more bizarre choice. But what I'm saying is with the new 3DS. So when you play a Game Boy game on the 3DS, you hold down the shoulder buttons and you can like toggle the screen filter or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
So when you play the Super Nintendo games, this is like really stupid. You obviously can't hold down the shoulder buttons because you use those for Super Nintendo games. So what they did was the added two shoulder buttons that they added to the new 3DS. Mm-hmm. You hold those two down and you could switch controllers, which is stupid.
Yeah. God, I do believe I have lost my place. The point is, I'm excited for VR too. And I think, like I said, like the thing I love about the VR community is it's all pretty much just one collective group. Like there's very rarely do I, like off the top of my head, can I think of any true exclusives, like even stuff like Super Hot or things of that sort. Like eventually they come to the other platforms, even if it's a year or two. There's really only a few outliers like the PlayStation stuff and Half-Life. Like I doubt Half-Life would ever go to PSVR.
I mean, the whole Half-Life thing. I know everyone wants it on PlayStation VR. I know it'll make a ton of money if they brought it. It's just
Exactly.
it's got if they gotta. Thankfully, they're changing the controllers around because that's the one thing that definitely wouldn't have worked with the PlayStation Move controllers.
Um, yeah, so I'm excited to see what happens with that in the future. And speaking of the future, Gran Turismo 7 has been delayed to 2022. And this comes to us from Polygon.com, who. Um, the game from Japanese studio Polyphony Digital is a follow up to Gran Turismo 6, which was released in 2013. So that's what, an 8-year gap? That's some Kingdom Hearts level stuff. The last Gran Turismo was GT Sports. Okay, sorry, yes. So the last one was GT Sports, which was released Polyphony Digital on the PS4 in 2017. So even still, that's still like a 4 or 5 years. Uh, GT Jim Ryan said that GT7 has been impacted by COVID-related production challenges and therefore will shift from 2021 to 2022. Ryan said with the ongoing pandemic, it's a dynamic and changing situation, and some critical aspects of game production have been slow over the past several months. What a weird. Okay, there's they basically do the thing, and then there's an article or a paragraph. All we've seen from the game so far is what was shown at the June 2021 presentation. Gran Turismo 7 was originally slated for a release in 2021, according to a PlayStation launch ad broadcast in November 22nd. Hey, remember that thing that just got delayed? Yeah, this is like it got delayed a year ago. What was it? I know. I guess kind of circling back in a certain way. I know. Yeah, what was it? Kenna got delayed. Hogwarts Mystery got delayed. GT got delayed. I even think like I don't think they ever said publicly, but I believe Ratchet was supposed to be sooner, and then they had to delay it because of COVID.
Yeah, they never said. They just said it was going to be what do you call it? Like a launch window release for
Yes,
Ratchet and Clank.
exactly.
But so I mean, 6-7 months after
I
launch is kind of
yeah, I've seen some people go like, oh, 13 months, 17 months. It's in the launch window. It's the first half of the console. Um,
exactly.
yeah, but like, I think we last year was especially in terms of gaming. Um, I know uh, movies and shows and things of that sort really got effective. Like the one for me personally was I used to watch the show Baki, and they did this weird thing where um, the Japanese version came out in like March, but then they didn't do the English version until like 3 months later because they're like, well, we could delay the Japanese version, but like it's good to go. We have it done, so we'll just do the English version later. Um, so I'm kind of curious. Do you think, just in terms of like big titles, do you think 2021 is going to keep up with that pace, or is this the year that we start to see those developments and those things like start to catch up with people?
Um, I would say they start catching up by the end of the year. I mean, I just recently there was a rumor going around that Horizon got pushed and God of War is definitely not going to make it this year, which doesn't surprise that many of us.
No, it's
So, oh, go ahead.
no. I just say like yeah, it's one of those like the second they said 2021, I'm like you're not making that. I believe in you, I trust in you, but that's not happening.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, because obviously they still have June, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's really their year. Um, that they have just Ratchet, Horizon, and maybe God of War. Let's just say for argument's sake. Like I don't I think Sony uh people inflate like they only have what 12 studios or something.
Yeah, they definitely have less than Microsoft right now.
Um, that it's like because like even stuff like Sucker Punch, they just did the DLC for Ghost of Tsushima, so like they're done for a while. Naughty Dog just did The Last of Us Part 2. They're done for a while. Blue Point did Demon Souls, so they're done. So like, not necessarily their big hitters, but a lot of their name studios are going to be off for a bit. So I am just kind of curious how that shakes out in the long term.
Well, they have some of their studios. They have multiple studios with them, because I know in Insomniac they have those 2 different studios. So one of them's working on. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I believe Naughty Dog is like kind of flexing. Like I believe, from Uncharted 3 to Last of Us Left Behind, they split into 2 and then they merged back into 1. And I believe they're separating again. And then obviously Insomniac has multiple locations and multiple studios and whatever. So not the full staff is gonna be there. But then you have stuff like Studio Japan, which like it just really sucks knowing like, okay, they're not for a while. So like again, like you just start going down the checklist. It's like, wow, there's really only like, I think I would have to double check, like I guess maybe Bend.
Yeah, I don't know what Ben could be working on that isn't Days Gone related.
Exactly, like because that same with what was it? Ghost of Tsushima. I could totally see them doing a PS5 port at some point, but I don't think that takes the whole studio to do that.
No, that's just a simple port job. I mean, I'm assuming right now they're working on whatever the next Ghost game is.
I'm curious. Like, do you think they're going to keep the? Because I only saw the launch, so I don't know how it is right now. Do you think they're gonna like continue to support the Ghost multiplayer, or was that kind of just a fun one-off and they're not going to do more?
I would think they'd keep supporting it. I mean, up until whatever the next Ghost game is, which I'm assuming won't come out for like another 3, 4, 5 years or so.
Yeah, about that. Okay, sorry. It's I'm just going over. Yeah. Also, sadly, Lord of the Rings Gollum was delayed to next year. Sadly, so.
I haven't seen anything from that game besides the teaser.
I think they just did the teaser. That was it. Yeah, because real quick, do a quick bullet point. Okay, it makes sense. I did not know they owned Pixel Opus.
Oh, Sony? Yeah, it's one of their in-house studios.
Yeah, because they only have what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, but like, okay, we'll go in order. But yeah, so first off is Bend. They theoretically could do a game this year, but I don't see it happening, especially after the middling reviews Days Gone got. I feel like they might want to keep that one a bit in the oven. Next is Guerrilla, which Horizon. Insomniac, Ratchet. Japan Studios, RIP.
Yeah, I don't know what else they could be doing besides publishing stuff. So
yeah, because the next one is London Studios. Did they not close London, or did he consolidate it?
I don't think they did, because the last game they released was Blood and Truth, I think.
Yeah, but that was.
They must be working on another game then, right? They'd be like the next to go out with a release.
Because when. Okay, not Bloodborne. Professional is. Well, I meant to type Blood and Truth, and then I was just staring at Bloodborne. All right, Blood and Truth. Nope, not Blood and Fury. God, professionalism at the best. Yeah, because Blood and Truth was 2019, so they should roughly be wrapping it up.
I mean, especially if they're working on. I don't know if they are working on a VR game, because their last 2 games were technically VR games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they could be working on. If it is a VR game, then yeah, it should be about ready.
Was it? London's down. Oh, not the Discord. Yeah, because okay. I can't find it. It's not important. Anyway, back to it. Media Molecule.
Dreams.
Yeah, Dreams was last year. So, again, like a PS5 port. It already has VR support, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, they added that recently.
Yeah. So just a PS5 port at the most. Naughty Dog, like we said. Sony or Santa Monica. Obviously, God of War. Sucker Punch. Ghost. XDev, I would have to look up their work, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not sure of their work on the top of my head. I think they mostly do just like random stuff.
And then you get Pixel Opus. I'm gonna be honest, I don't see them lasting long. I hope they do. Concrete Genie was dope. I want more of it, and like hopefully Sony invests into them more, because I like their work as a studio, but I feel like if any studio had to go first, they would probably be the first on the chopping board.
They only made 2 games though, so I would see Sony at least giving them one more shot.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And then the last 2 is Polyphony, which is GT, and then San Diego.
They did racing games, yeah.
Yeah. So really, it's just Japan, London, and Pixel Opus. So now that I'm reading this, it's like, yeah, they're. I think it might just be Ratchet and Horizon and God of War. I don't see them, like, they'll probably tease something, but I don't see them releasing anything new this year, at least.
No, I think this year you'll get Ratchet and Horizon, and then next year it'd be God of War, maybe Spider-Man, and then the one that comes to my mind is Gen Studio, or Team Eco, or whatever the heck they're called now, Gen Design.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they've been teasing a new game for a while now.
I get it confused. Are they not the? No, yeah, sorry, the Team Eco. Because what was it? It was Studio Japan that did Flower.
Yeah, I think so. Unless that must have been XDev, wasn't it?
Because I know what the last game they did was some air. It was like Journey, but instead of sand, it was like with clouds and stuff.
Like Flow or something?
Something like that.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's the that game that came to like iPad and stuff,
yeah,
like
exactly.
iOS.
It was an iOS thing first.
Well, that's from that game company. That's different.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dev, yeah.
Well, I think that's a really good part of it. That they had stuff like I am just the worst. The people who did what was it? Little Hope or Madame Medan and Until Dawn.
I don't even know their name, honestly. I know that they are a Sony company, I think. Oh wait, no, they're not. No,
yeah,
never mind.
Yeah,
because they.
I think there's a lot of studios like that, like that game company and what is it? Supermassive and all this other stuff that like you just.
It's Supermassive, yeah.
Yeah, that you just associate them with PlayStation. That they can use those people to kind of fill in the gaps a bit more. But yeah, before we move on, so yes, any last things about I guess your thoughts on how this year's going to play out for PlayStation? Like, do you think they have enough gas in the tank basically to keep that momentum going, or do you think like it's going to wane off a bit just because they don't have the number of studios to do a new AAA release? Not even like every 2 months, like pretty much once a quarter.
I mean, I think it's going to be fine for the most part. I just don't think it's going to be. You're not going to see any of the in-house studios do any big releases besides like Ratchet and Horizon. Like I know you got Deathloop coming out. I would assume the Ghostwire game's coming out this year as well.
Yep, and I believe those are like 6 months exclusives or something. Yeah,
so you got all those like third party and second party like exclusives and stuff coming out.
And speaking of third-party exclusives, we're gonna hop over and just quickly do the state of play news. That there was a state of play on. Okay, this article was posted like 7 minutes ago. That's weird. um, uh, Sony had a Sony had a state of play presentation the other day. That feels like that's very poor journalism. They did this thing like a while ago. Yo, here's what's up. Anyway, these are the game announcements. So they announced that Crash 4 is coming March 12th. This article is just so weirdly structured. Final Fantasy VII will get an upgrade with Final Fantasy VII Intergrade on June 11th, offering better textures, lighting effects, blah blah blah. Oddworld Soulstorm is arriving on April 6th and will be the April PlayStation Plus game. Although their wording was very weird because they made it seem like it was only a temporary thing, but now they've like confirmed like yeah, that's the Plus game for April. They showed the stylus fighting game Shifu, and they did a update on Hyperlight Drifter. There was the Control-esque Returnal, which has been set for an April 30th release date. Kenna was August 24th. The dodgeball game Knockout City is arriving March 21st, which was also at the Direct, I believe. That's where it got unveiled. Yeah, Knockout City. They did another trailer for Deathloop, and then Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. So I guess yeah, just top level. We don't need to do all of them. Just like, did you watch the Direct, and if so, what were your thoughts, sir?
I did watch it. I thought it was what I expected. Like, I wasn't expecting any, God of War or Horizon news or anything. It's just, they usually do like an update on a big game and then show off a few indies.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. Yeah, something I learned afterwards was, because a lot of way I learned this news. It's like I'm just linked articles on Facebook and whatever. And truthfully, I'm only gonna read the headline. Like I'm not gonna do a whole deep dive. But apparently they did say beforehand, like, hey, we're only showing 10 games. They're only gonna be deep dives into these games. Like we're gonna give you real nitty gritty breakdowns. So in that regard, I have lightened up on it a bit. But I, especially going back to all the news like with Ratchet and Days Gone, I thought it was fine. The only thing for me is like I just don't know why it was necessary. Cause yeah, there was 10 titles. 3 of them were new games that we'd never heard about, and even the dodgeball was at the Direct, but I think this was the first gameplay, and then Final Fantasy is a DLC. So basically, it was just update on a bunch of games and one new game, which like I'm super excited for Shifu. Shifu looks cool, and like basically it's like a roguelite, but every time you die, you get older. So I guess like the more you die, the harder it gets because you've become older and whatever. And that's dope. And like I love state of players for that because they can bolster, like again, a concrete Genie or a thing of that sort. Like it can really bolster up these kind of middling games and like put it on your radar more. But me personally, I didn't. It felt a bit unnecessary, especially because like I'm looking at my notes now. Like the only really update they had for Kenna was release date. Like they didn't, to my knowledge, they didn't show us any new gameplay or thing of that sort. It was just another trailer with a release date.
Which I thought was honestly fine because I think the only other Kenna content we got was that one trailer that they initially showed.
Mm.
So it's good to have another trailer, I guess.
No, yes. The main thing for me is like it's just weird that Ratchet gets the press release, but then Kenna gets the video package. Where I feel like Ratchet probably again like you don't have to show me the whole game. Still like give me a demo level or something, but like I'm just curious, like how the riffs work and whatever. Like I feel like that's one that actually you needed like a 2-3 minute breakdown of like, hey, this is how the riffs work. This is how Girl Ratchet plays. These are all the different stuff compared to Kenna, which it was dope and like I'm excited for. But it was just like another Kenna trailer.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Kenna thing they showed in the state of play was because they wanted to tell people that they delayed it away from March, but they didn't want to put it in a blog post.
Yeah.
Well, so they're all like, okay, here's a trailer, and then, oh, it's August.
Yeah, because same with, what was it, just going over it, like, Deathloop. I love that game, but, like, they still have yet to explain how that game works. Like, it's like, oh, cool, you die, you reset, but, like, does it wipe your whole save file, or is it just like a level thing?
No, I think it's a level thing. I don't think they would make it that challenging. I mean, it's Arcane Studios, I think, so it's not. They're not looking to make their game challenging, and it's accessibility and stuff.
Because that's what I was talking to someone about, and they said it was basically like Dead Rising, where you have the limited clock, and I'm like, that sounds really cool, but also that was the one thing most people hated about Dead Rising was the, constant need to like check the timer.
Yeah, it would boot you out of the level, and then you'd have to load back in and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to see. Yeah, I guess that's the biggest takeaway for me was I enjoyed it, and like I said, now that I have that knowledge that they were, they went in beforehand and said like, hey, this is not gonna be a massive thing. I respect them a bit more, but between the Pokemon Direct that happened after, and then the Nintendo Direct that happened before, I would still probably say this is the weakest one for me, just because I don't need a AAA. I don't need God of War gameplay, but like I said, give me stuff like Shifu, give me stuff like that, where like these smaller indie titles that give them a better audience. Comparing to like Crash 4, where it's Crash 4 just it like I understand by the nature that's what these things are, but the Crash 4 just felt like an extended ad. It was like, hey, it's coming out to PS5. We're gonna spend 4 minutes telling you why, when you already know what the game's about.
Yeah, there were some weird like things that they put in that state of play that didn't need to be there. And I could say the same about the Nintendo Direct too, but that's a whole nother topic.
And I'm like a staunch defender of these things. And I do think people go in with the wrong expectations. Like, you're not gonna get a Smash reveal every Direct. Like, 1, maybe 2 a year is fine. But like I said, I think these work best where it's like just it being a video package does kind of enhance and kind of it brings these titles up where, like, honestly, I probably could care less about Dodge City Ball or
Knockout City.
Knockout City, yes. But the fact they're like, hey, there's a cross-play beta next week. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this game I knew nothing about. I'm semi-interested to check out now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the state of play helps bring that up, because you would assume that the people who are watching the state of play, some of them didn't watch the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, exactly. But that will pretty much do it for the news as we start just to slowly land this here podcast on the waters. That's what hosts do, I'm sure. Allegedly. I guarantee there's probably one pirate podcaster. Like, the alliteration itself, it's like evocative.
It sounds like something Jared Petty would do.
Exactly. But before we wind down, thank you so much for being on. It's been a blast to talk Concrete Genie and all this other stuff. But do you have any socials you want to post?
Yeah. So the one that I lead many people into is my Twitter account. That's usually where I post all my hot takes and everything that you can hear from me about. So my Twitter is at Speedy99, but it's spelled SPEADY
Mm.
99. Yeah, it's weird.
No, this is it's like I said. I still I'm planning to do it when I do eventually get my PS5, but like I've had my same PS3 name from launch, so I know how much of a bad name can come into long term.
Yeah, I just learned to embrace mine because
Yeah,
that was mine is like my PSN's the same thing as my like every other username is the Speedy thing.
yeah, I
And
see
I was like, yeah, you
exactly.
know what? I'm not gonna change this. Just leave it.
Yeah, well that was the worst part. Like I only started the whole like viral Vinny branding thing like 4 or 5 years after. So that's the only thing. Like I'm fine it being a dorky name. It just upsets me that it's like viral Vinny on this and on Xbox and this and then like PlayStation Sora 27714 like
Yeah,
it
it's not consistent.
yeah it's a little bit off. Um
Hmm.
but yes. Uh, I have the notes. I'm looking right at the notes, and I'm still like, where am I going? Um, um, yeah. So yes. So before we go, real quick, I'll just get your brief opinions. The Plus games for next month. You're actually getting four this time. The PS5 game is something called Maquette. Some people are excited for it. I've never heard of it.
I'm excited for it.
Give me the quick like elevator pitch. It sounds like a rip off of the Puppeteer.
Do you remember that game, Superliminal? That weird game
Yeah,
with
the one
like
with like
that.
the MC Escher you could change the perspective.
Yeah, it's similar to that, except I don't know how to really explain it because all I've seen was from Annapurna's Twitter account. 'Cause it's an Annapurna game,
Hmm.
but I think the idea of it is that you're on this like giant diorama, and then there's another diorama in the center. So once you place like a piece on that small diorama, it appears in your world,
Okay,
and it's
that's
like very like nested in a kind of way. It's hard to explain. You have to see it for yourself, but I'm
okay.
excited for it, especially since it's free.
That's what I was gonna say. Honestly, that sounds like one of those games that I would have never bought on my own, but I'm glad I have Plus for. And the PS4 games are Farpoint, Remnant, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Um, but the interesting thing is, I have to check my notes. There's some weird hinky thing where you don't get the PS5 version for free.
Yeah, I think they noted that in the announcement. They said it's not eligible for the upgrade.
I why I see that's the weird wording is it sounds like you can still upgrade it but you have to pay a fee.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it works. I wish I knew, but they didn't really
Yeah.
go much into that. I mean, from what I've been telling my friend, because I told one of my friends like, "Hey, you really gotta play Final Fantasy VII now. You don't have a choice." But he wants the PS5 version, so I'm like, "Okay, it's on sale all the time for $30. You might as well just buy it for $30 and then just wait."
Exactly. Um yeah, cuz I'm looking at the all it really says is PlayStation Plus members who redeem Final Fantasy VII Remake PS4 version as a Plus benefit are not eligible for a free PS5 upgrade. Um which is fine. Like, I mean, okay, it's dumb. I don't support it, but it is kind of annoying that um, it seems like most devs have been doing the free upgrade thing. Like aside from Final Fantasy, the only one I can think of that doesn't do it is Control.
Yeah, I mean, Square Enix. It doesn't really surprise me much. I mean, most of us didn't even think the upgrade would be free entirely
Mm.
for the Final Fantasy VII thing. They thought they were going
Well,
to charge us.
well, even now there's like the wording. They're like, uh, I don't think there's clarity if the Yuffie DLC is on PS5 or if it's on both.
I would assume it's only on PS5. I think someone did clarify that,
Yeah,
which is
that whole
go ahead.
situation is just like it's like, oh cool, we're doing a DLC for Final Fantasy, awesome, but okay, cool, you have to pay money and it's only on PS5, and it's just like it's too complicated.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope by the time June comes around, there would be more people with PS5s that want them.
Yeah. Um, and then your Xbox Games with Gold games are Warface, Breakout, and then Vala, Vicious Attack, Llama, Apocalypse, and then also Metal Slug 3 and Port Royale 3 for previous gens. But consummate professional. But that will do it. Okay, well, yes. But so before I do my wrap up spiel, any last thoughts? Any things you want to say, sir?
No, not really. Just like I said, follow me on my Twitter if you want to follow my shenanigans.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. I know you do a lot of silent streams every now and again.
Yeah, usually when I get bored, I'll just stream something.
Mm-hmm. The one I watched of yours was what was it? Not Astro, Playroom, or
oh, that's right.
the PS5 one.
Yeah, it was Astro's Playroom. Yeah.
Is it Playroom or? I thought it.
I think it's Playroom.
Okay.
Because I know on PS4 it was called the Playroom, and then this new one's called Astro's Playroom.
Okay, there we go. Yes, Astro's Playroom. Yeah, I watched like 5 minutes of that. That game is like adorable, but like I had to turn off the stream because there was just too many Easter eggs and references, and like I couldn't. I was
That's
like,
something. Right. Yeah, once you get your PS5, dude, you gotta.
Exactly.
You absolutely need to play that.
That's where I was like, all right, this is being spoiled for me. I wanna go in as fresh as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that will do it for another episode of the Unofficial PlayStation Plus podcast. But if you want to keep the conversation going or check out the daily happenings of the show, be sure to follow us at PS Plus Pod, all one word, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to write into the show and have your comments or concerns read on air, PlayStation Plus Show at gmail.com. But I've been Vincent Kenny. He's been Mr. Hunter Gerace.
Gerace.
Damn.
You almost got it right. Almost.
I added an extra like Q. Yes, so that's been it for this episode. So until next time, long live play, whenever, wherever, forever.